The water lapped against the tiled edge of the infinity pool like a whispered secret, but it couldn't drown out the echo of Elizabeth's voice in my head. I can't do this anymore, Ella. It's over. I sank deeper, my sundress heavy and sodden, until only my face broke the surface, tears mixing with chlorine as the Seville sun dipped low, painting the Alhambra's distant silhouette in blood-orange hues. That's when I heard the gate creak, footsteps deliberate and unhurried, and before I could scramble out, a shadow fell over me, broad and unfamiliar. ¿Estás bien, chica? The voice was gravelly, laced with that Andalusian drawl, but the English words hit like a lifeline. I looked up, blinking through wet lashes, and there he was, Señor Ramirez, Elizabeth's father, his salt and pepper hair tousled by the breeze, face weathered like old leather from years under this relentless sky. He wasn't supposed to be back from Madrid for another day, but here he stood, linen shirt untucked, eyes narrowing not in anger, but something softer, recognition maybe of a fracture he knew too well. I froze, half expecting a tirade about trespassing or dramatics, but he just crouched at the pool's edge, dipping a hand in the water as if testing its temperature for a child. She told me everything on the phone last night, he said quietly, his gaze drifting to the horizon where the Guadalquivir River snaked through the city like a vein. About you two. About the fight. Come on out, before you turn into a prune, and we both regret not having sangria handy. I hauled myself out of the pool, water sluicing off me in rivulets that soaked the flagstones, my bare feet slipping on the mossy edges. Señor Ramirez, Carlos, as Elizabeth had always called him in that casual, affectionate way that made my chest ache, didn't avert his eyes or offer a towel like some chivalrous stranger. Instead, he straightened up, crossed his arms over his broad chest, and let out a low chuckle that rumbled like distant thunder over the Sierra Nevada. You look like a drowned flamenco dancer, Ella. Come inside. The mosquitoes here don't discriminate against heartbreak. I followed him through the wrought iron gate of the Ramirez family villa, a sprawling hacienda on the outskirts of Seville that Elizabeth had described as her prison of paradise. The air was thick with jasmine and the faint tang of orange blossoms from the grove beyond the courtyard, but tonight it felt stifling, pressing down on me like the weight of unspoken regrets. Carlos led me to the terracotta-tiled kitchen, its walls lined with copper pots and faded photos of flamenco festivals, Elizabeth as a gap-toothed kid in a ruffled dress, her mother laughing beside her, both of them gone too soon from the world but etched forever in this space. He poured 2 glasses of red wine from a dusty bottle on the counter, the liquid swirling like garnet rivers, and slid one across the scarred wooden island. Drink. It's not holy water, but it'll do. I took it with trembling hands, the stem cool against my palm, and sipped. It burned going down, bold and unapologetic, much like the man himself. Carlos was in his late 50s, a retired architect who'd traded blueprints for olive oil production after his wife's death a decade ago. Elizabeth had painted him as distant, a ghost haunting the villa's shadows, but up close, there was a warmth in the crinkles around his eyes, a quiet strength that made me wonder if I'd ever really seen him. Tell me, he said, leaning against the sink, his own glass untouched. What happened? Lizzie's version was sparse, all fire and no smoke. I hesitated, the wine loosening knots in my throat but not the ones in my heart. Elizabeth and I had met 6 months ago, 2 American expats chasing dreams in Spain's sun-soaked embrace. I was 22, fresh out of a liberal arts college in Boston with a backpack full of poetry books and a visa that screamed, temporary. She'd answered my Craigslist ad for a roommate in a cramped Ibiza-style apartment in Madrid, ironic, since we were both transplants from the States, fleeing the grind of New York winters for something more alive. Elizabeth, or Lizzie as I called her in whispers, was 22 too, with that effortless grace. Dark waves of hair that caught the light like polished mahogany, hazel eyes that shifted from stormy to sunlit in a heartbeat, and a laugh that could coax confessions from strangers. We'd clicked over late-night paella and debates about Lorca versus Whitman, our shared queerness a quiet undercurrent at first, stolen glances over sangria, hands brushing in the kitchen like accidental sparks. By month 2 it was a full blaze, stolen weekends in Granada's Alhambra gardens, where we'd traced the arabesques of Moorish tiles with our fingers, promising forever under star-pricked skies. But cracks had formed. My student loans loomed like storm clouds, her family's expectations, Carlos's subtle pressure to settle back in the U.S. chipped away at us. Last week, after a blowout fight in this very villa during a visit, she'd walked away. "You're holding me back, Ella. I need to breathe." Now, recounting it to Carlos, the words tumbled out raw and jagged. He listened without interruption, nodding at the right pauses, his face a map of empathy I'd never expected. When I finished, voice cracking on the part about her saying I was just a phase. He set his glass down with a soft clink. "Lizzie's scared, you know. Always has been since her mama left us. She builds walls higher than the Giralda Tower. But that doesn't make it right." He paused, eyes distant. "I wasn't always the best father. After Maria died, I buried myself in work. Left Lizzie to fend for herself. When she came out to me at 16, I froze. Didn't know how to say, 'I love you anyway.' Took years to fix that mess." His confession hung in the air, vulnerable and unvarnished, and for the first time that night I felt seen, not as the interloper in his daughter's drama, but as someone navigating the same treacherous waters. We talked until the wine bottle emptied, the clock ticking past midnight. He shared stories of Maria, a fiery flamenco dancer who'd swept him off his feet in a Barcelona bar, her spirit alive in Elizabeth's every defiant step. I spoke of my own fractured family back in Boston, a distant mother, a father who'd never understood my city girl whims, and how Spain had been my escape until it became my heart's undoing. By the time I stumbled to the guest room, exhaustion pulling at my limbs, Carlos clapped a hand on my shoulder at the door. "Stay as long as you need, Ella. This house has room for mending." His touch was paternal, steadying, and as I collapsed onto the linen sheets, the pool's chill fading from my bones, I realized something unexpected had already happened. In catching me at my lowest, he'd thrown me a rope I didn't know I needed. The next morning dawned golden, sunlight filtering through persimmon shutters, birdsong weaving through the olive branches. I woke to the scent of fresh churros frying, drawn downstairs like a moth to flame. Carlos was at the stove, sleeves rolled up, humming an old bolero as oil sizzled. "Eat," he commanded, plating the golden twists with a dusting of sugar. "Can't plot revenge on an empty stomach." I laughed, the sound surprising me, and we fell into easy rhythm. Him regaling me with tales of Seville's underground jazz scene in the 90s, me sketching doodles of the villa's courtyard on a napkin. But beneath the levity a plan simmered. Elizabeth was due back from her solo trip to Córdoba that afternoon. Her text to me gone silent since the fight. Carlos suggested a truce dinner. Gazpacho Jamana Iberico, and no holds barred on the truth. "She needs to hear it from both of us," he said, eyes twinkling with mischief. "Family's not blood. It's the ones who stay." As the day unfolded, I wandered the grounds, the pool now a mirror of calm blue instead of turmoil. I thought of Elizabeth's last words, how they'd sliced deeper than any argument before. Was it really over? Or had fear just dressed up as finality? The villa felt alive with possibility, its stucco walls echoing with ghosts of laughter long past. Carlos found me there later, a sketchpad in hand, my habit when words failed. Artist, eh? Maria was one too. Painted abstracts that could make you weep. He flipped through my pages, pausing on a charcoal rendering of Elizabeth midlaugh, her eyes alight. "You've captured her soul. Don't let go of that gift or her." His words lingered as I prepared for her arrival, nerves twisting like vines. When the gravel crunched under tires, my heart lurched. Elizabeth stepped out of the rental car, travel-worn in a linen shift, her hair tied back with a scarf that fluttered like a white flag. She froze at the sight of me on the porch, arms crossed, Carlos beside me like a sentinel. "Ella? What are you, Dad? What's going on?" "Come inside, Mija," Carlos called, his voice steady as the Guadalquivir. "We've got stories to share. And churros." She hesitated, hazel eyes flicking between us, a storm brewing. But she came, the door clicking shut behind her like the first note of a flamenco strum. Tense, anticipatory, the dance just beginning. Dinner unfolded like a tense pas de deux, the three of us around the scarred oak table in the dining room, candles flickering against the whitewashed walls adorned with Maria's abstracts, swirls of crimson and indigo that seemed to pulse with the unspoken. Gazpacho chilled our spoons, its tomato tang sharp as accusations, while the jamon draped like silk over crusty bread. Elizabeth picked at hers, her fork scraping porcelain, eyes downcast, the Cordoba dust still clinging to her sandals. I'd chosen the seat across from her, close enough to feel the heat of her presence but far enough to breathe. Carlos broke the ice as promised with a story from his youth. A botched proposal in a Madrid cafe where he'd spilled paella on Maria's lap, only for her to laugh and say, "If you can ruin dinner this badly, imagine the life we'll build." Elizabeth's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile, but it faded when he turned to her. "Lizzie, life's too short for half measures. Your mama taught me that. And Ella, she's no half measure." Her head snapped up, cheeks flushing under the olive tone. "Dad, this isn't your business. Ella and I, we're adults. We figured it out." But her voice wavered, the lie thin as the summer air drifting through open casements. I couldn't stay silent. "Figured what out exactly? That I'm a distraction from your real life? The one where you marry some safe architect like your father wanted?" The words escaped sharper than intended, fueled by the Rioja weed cracked open, its berry notes mirroring the bitterness on my tongue. Elizabeth's eyes blazed, that familiar fire I'd once mistaken for passion alone. "You don't get it, Ella. This villa, this life, it's all I have left of her. You waltz in with your Boston dreams and poetry, expecting me to append everything. I'm not running away like you did." The room tilted, her accusation landing like a slap. Running away? From a family that saw my queerness as a phase to outgrow? From a city that chewed up artists like me? But before I could retort, Carlos cleared his throat, his presence at anchor. "Enough. Both of you." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, his face etched with lines that spoke of battles won and lost. "Lizzie, Ella didn't waltz. She fought for you for this." He gestured between us, inclusive, paternal. "And Ella, me hijja's not running. She's rooted here like the olives outside. You pull too hard, you uproot everything." His words hung wise and weary, diffusing the charge like rain on embers. Elizabeth's shoulders slumped, her fork clattering down. "I'm sorry," she murmured, "not to me, but to the tablecloth, a dam breaking. I didn't mean. God, Ella, I miss you. But it terrifies me. What if we crash and burn? What if I lose this place too?" I reached across, my hand covering hers, callous from her pottery wheel, warm despite the chill. "Then we rebuild. Together. No crashing without catching each other." Our fingers laced, tentative, the first bridge over the chasm. Carlos watched, a soft smile playing, then rose to fetch dessert. Tarta de Santiago, almondy and dense, like the truths we'd unearthed. That night, as stars wheeled over the courtyard, Elizabeth and I slipped out to the pool, the water now a silver sheet under moonlight. We sat on the edge, feet dangling, her head on my shoulder, the fight's residue fading like mist. "Dad's different with you," she whispered, tracing patterns in the ripples. "He talks more. Laughs. I haven't seen that since. Well, you know. He's got stories worth telling," I replied, inhaling her scent, lavender soap and sun-warmed skin. We talked until dawn pinked the horizon, rebuilding brick by brick. Plans for a joint art show in Seville, dreams of a tiny studio in the Barrio Santa Cruz. It felt fragile, this mending, but real, human in its imperfections. Days blurred into a tentative rhythm. Mornings, Carlos dragged us to the olive groves. His hands gnarled but sure as he showed us the harvest, pruners snicking branches with precision born of decades. "Patience," he'd say, wiping sweat from his brow. "Olives don't ripen overnight. Neither do hearts." Elizabeth and I worked side by side, our laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves, her hand brushing mine in the dirt. A spark reignited. Afternoons were ours, sketching in the shade of cork oaks, her clay forming vessels that held my wilder lines. One evening, as cicadas hummed their serenade, she pulled me into the villa's library, a dusty sanctum of leather-bound tomes and faded maps. "Remember Lorca?" she asked, pressing a volume into my hands. The one we'd read aloud in Madrid, voices intertwining like lovers. We curled on the rug, her reading passion's verses, my head in her lap, the world narrowing to us. But harmony, I've learned, is the prelude to discord. It came via a letter, innocuous at first. Cream envelope, postmarked New York, addressed to Carlos. Elizabeth found it on the hall table, her face paling as she scanned the contents. "It's from Aunt Clara," she said, voice hollow. "She wants me to come back for good. Says there's a job at the firm, stability. And She knows about us. Says it's time to choose properly. The words properly echoed like a verdict. Aunt Clara, Maria's sister, the family matriarch who'd raised Elizabeth after the accident, her love conditional as a winter sun. She'd tolerated my existence in postcards, but this? A summons veiled in concern. Dad doesn't know yet, Elizabeth confessed that night, pacing the guest room while I sat on the bed, heart pounding. If she tells him. He already knows, I said softly. About us. And he chose you, us. But doubt crept in, a shadow lengthening. Was this villa's embrace strong enough against transatlantic tugs? The next morning, confrontation brewed over café con leche. Carlos read the letter in silence, his jaw tightening like knotted rope. Clara means well, he finally said, folding it away. But she's not here. She doesn't see how you bloom in this soil, Lizzie. His eyes met hers, fierce. Stay if you want. Go if you must. But decide for you, not her ghosts. Elizabeth nodded, but the seed of fracture took root. That week she grew distant. Phone calls to New York lengthening. Her sketches turning angular, haunted. I caught her staring at old photos of Maria. Tears silent on her cheeks. What if she's right? She whispered one night, curled against me. What if loving you means losing them all? I held her tighter, but fear not. Was our mending just a pause before the storm? It broke on a sweltering Friday, the air heavy with habub-like Sirocco winds from the Sahara. Elizabeth announced it over lunch. I'm going back. Just for the interview. To see. Her voice was steel-wrapped cotton, eyes avoiding mine. Carlos protested mildly. Think it through, Mija. But she was packed by dusk, suitcase thumping down the stairs like a heartbeat faltering. At the door, she hugged her father fiercely, then turned to me. It's not goodbye, Ella. Just space. Our kiss was brief, tasting of salt and farewell, her cab vanishing into Seville's labyrinthine streets. The villa fell silent, echoes mocking. Carlos found me later by the pool, where it had all begun. She'll return, he said, sitting beside me, feet in the water. But you? Decide if you'll wait. His hand on my back was steady, but inside I fractured. Love's first betrayal, not hers but time's cruel slight. Weeks stretched like taffy pulled too thin. Each day a monotonous loop of sunlight and shadow in the villa's embrace. Elizabeth's texts arrived sporadic. Interview went well. Missed the olives. Or Aunt Clara's pushing hard. Thinking of you. Each one a breadcrumb leading nowhere. I threw myself into work, my laptop a lifeline to freelance illustrations for a New York mag. But the screen blurred with her absence. Carlos became my unwitting buoy, our evenings a ritual. Sunset walks along the river, where he'd spin yarns of Andalusian lore, gypsy kings and cursed loves, his voice a gravelly balm against the ache. You're stronger than you know, Ella, he told me one twilight. As we watched ferries glide under Triana Bridge, lanterns twinkling like fireflies. Maria used to say heartbreaks like pruning. Hurts like hell but makes room for new growth. I nodded but inside doubt festered. Was I pruning or withering? Friends back home urged me homeward. Spain's a fling, not forever. But the thought curdled. This land had woven into my veins, its rhythm syncing with my pulse, much like her. Then betrayal's blade slipped in, sharp and unforeseen. It came via a forwarded email from a mutual friend in Madrid. A photo, innocuous at a glance, Elizabeth at a gallery opening in Soho, arm linked with a woman named Sophia, her smile radiant under gallery lights. The caption. Reunited with my muse. Sparks flying. Sophia. Tall blonde, a curator with Ivy credentials and the kind of poise that screamed stability. They dated in college, Elizabeth had confessed once, over wine-fueled confessions, a what-if that never was. Until now apparently. I confronted the screen, heart hammering, then stormed to the kitchen where Carlos nursed an espresso. Look. I thrust the phone at him, voice cracking. He scanned it, face unchanging, then set it down gently. Sophia. Old flame. Clara's goddaughter, actually. His admission was quiet, but it landed like thunder. She mentioned it in a call last week. Said Lizzie needed familiar ground to stand on. Fury boiled. Not at him but the web of omissions. And you didn't tell me? He met my gaze unflinching. Wasn't my story to tell. But now. Go to her. Face it. Running from shadows only makes them grow. His words propelled me. By dawn, I'd booked a red-eye to JFK, the villa receding like a dream half remembered. The flight was torture, turbulence mirroring my turmoil, New York's skyline a jagged accusation upon landing. I crashed at a friend's Brooklyn walk-up, the autumn chill seeping through fire escapes, a far cry from Seville's warmth. Elizabeth's apartment was in the village, a pre-war charmer she'd sublet before Spain. I buzzed up unannounced, pulse thundering, the doorman eyeing my disheveled jeans and hoodie like an intruder. She opened the door in yoga pants and a tank, hair in a messy bun, surprise widening her hazel eyes. Ella? What, how? Behind her the space was chaos. Half-packed boxes, Sophia's sleek coat draped over a chair. The air smelled of takeout Thai and regret. We need to talk, I said, stepping inside before she could protest. The living room overlooked Washington Square, leaves swirling like confetti in the wind, but the view mocked our standoff. She sank onto the sofa, gesturing vaguely. The interview. It dragged me here. Sophia showed up old-time sake. It's nothing. Nothing. I pulled up the photo on my phone, her face crumpling as pixels betrayed. Sparks, Lizzie? While I'm back there, pruning my damn heart for you. Tears hot on my cheeks, the dam I'd built in Seville crumbling. She reached for me but I stepped back. I was scared, okay? Aunt Clara's in my ear, Dad's so far away, and Sophia. She's easy. No oceans, no expectations. Her voice broke, vulnerability cracking the facade. But I don't love her. Not like. Stop. The word was a whip. Betrayal wasn't just the arm link. It was the silence, the space she'd carved without me. We argued then, voices rising over the city's hum. Her defending breathing room. Me hurling accusations of cowardice. It peaked when she admitted Clara's ultimatum. Choose the firm or lose the inheritance. The villa's tied to it. Family weaponized. I left her there. Doors slamming like finality, wandering the village's cobblestones till neon blurred. A bar drew me in dim jazz-laced, walls papered in faded posters of Billie Holiday. I nursed a gin and tonic, the ice melting like resolve when my phone buzzed. Carlos. Heard you landed. Call if you need backup, chica. But remember, love's not a villa. It's the roots you plant wherever. His voice, steady over the line, pulled me back from the edge. We talked for hours, him in Seville's quiet night, me in this cacophony, unpacking the mess. Clara's afraid of losing her too, he said. After Maria she clung tight. But Lizzie's her own woman. Help her see that. Emboldened, I returned the next day, not to fight but to listen. Elizabeth met me at a cafe on Bleecker. Rain pattering the awning like hesitant applause. Over lattes she confessed. Sophia was a rebound, a shield against the void. I flew back because of the job, but I stayed for her pressure. And I hate it. Tears mingled with foam. I want Spain. But the villa. Dad's worked his life for it. We walked then, arms brushing, the city a backdrop to raw honesty. I shared my fears, of being the transient American unworthy of her roots. She admitted hers, of repeating Maria's fate, loving fiercely only to lose. By dusk under the arch in the square we kissed slow reaffirming rain-slicked promises. Come back with me, she whispered. Fight for it. Together. But twists like flamenco rhythms accelerate. That night a call from Carlos. Clara's coming to Seville. With lawyers. Says it's time to settle the estate. The inheritance poison chalice. Elizabeth's face drained of color. She'll take everything. We boarded the flight 2 days later. Hands clasped white-knuckled. New York's lights fading like a chapter closed. Seville welcomed us with deceptive calm. Blue skies, the Giralda's golden spire piercing heaven. But the villa thrummed with tension. Carlos pacing the courtyard, a sheaf of papers in hand. She arrives tomorrow, he confirmed, embracing his daughter fiercely. Wants to discuss your future. And mine. Over a hurried dinner of espinacas con garbanzos strategy formed. Appeal to Clara's heart, not her ledgers. Elizabeth sketched a family tree on a napkin, roots intertwining. Maria's legacy not in deeds but in spirit. I added illustrations. Us blooming amid the branches. Carlos nodded approval. You've got Maria's fire, both of you. Sleep evaded me, Elizabeth's form curled beside. Her breath steady but shadowed. Betrayal's scar lingered. Sophia's ghost a reminder that trust rebuilds slow. Yet here in this hacienda's heart hope flickered. Tomorrow's storm loomed, but we'd face it lashed together. Roots deep in contested soil. Clara arrived like a nor'easter barreling down from the Atlantic. Punctual at 10 a.m., her black Mercedes crunching gravel, lawyer in tow with a briefcase gleaming like judgment. She was a vision of East Coast precision. Mid-60s silver bob razor sharp, pearls at her throat, navy suit tailored to armor. Stepping from the car, she air-kissed Carlos, familial but cool, then turned to Elizabeth, eyes appraising. "Darling, you look sun-kissed. Spain suits you, I suppose." Her gaze slid to me, lingering with polite disdain. "And this is Ella," I supplied, extending a hand she shook limply. "The one who makes your niece smile." Bold, perhaps, but Carlos's nod from the porch bolstered me. We convened in the salon, a room of heavy brocade and Maria's largest canvas. A tempest of blues and golds dominating the mantel. Clara wasted no time, papers fanned like a bad hand. "The estate's overdue for review, Carlos." Maria's will was clear. Stability for Lizzie. This olive venture? Charming hobby but unsustainable. Her voice was measured, each word a scalpel. "The firm's offer stands, senior associate, New York base. With it, the villa transfers fully to you under family trust." Elizabeth stiffened beside me on the velvet settee. Her hand finding mine under the cushion, clammy, defiant. "Aunt Clara, the villa's not just bricks. It's Dad's life. Our life." She gestured to the walls where photos chronicled summers past. Her splashing in the pool, Maria's arms around them both. Clara's lips thinned. "Precisely why I'm intervening. After the accident I stepped up. Paid for your artsy detours, tolerated this phase." The word hung laced with implication, her eyes flicking to our joined hands. "Sophia mentioned your entanglements. Darling, at 22 experiment. But build a foundation, not a fantasy." The room crackled, conflict cresting. Elizabeth surged forward. "Phase? My love for Ella isn't a whim. It's realer than any boardroom." Tears glittered, but her chin lifted, Maria's fire alight. "And the villa stays with Dad. We'll make it work. Tourist stays, art retreats. Ella's designs, my pots. Roots, not relocation." Clara recoiled, then softened fractionally, glancing at Carlos. "Brother-in-law, surely you see reason? Maria wouldn't want her daughter adrift." He rose then, slow as the Guadalquivir's flow, and retrieved a small wooden box from the mantel, lacquered, etched with flamenco motifs. "Maria's letters," he said, voice resonant. "To Lizzie for her 21st. I held them back thinking, time." He handed one to Clara, who unfolded it with trembling fingers. Elizabeth's mother's script danced across the page. Words of wild love, urging her daughter to dance your own duende, not the steps prescribed. Tears welled in Clara's eyes, rare vulnerability cracking her shell. "I miss her too," she whispered, refolding it. "But fear. It makes us cling ugly." Silence stretched, the lawyer shifting uncomfortably. Carlos pressed. "Let Lizzie choose her dance. The olives yield enough. Ella's talent will draw crowds. Sign the papers as is. Trust us to thrive." Clara hesitated, gaze roaming the room. "Maria's painting our hopeful faces. For her," she said finally, pen-scratching concessions. "Villa intact, a modest fund for the venture, no strings on love." Handshakes followed, tentative bridges, and as she departed, she paused at the door, squeezing Elizabeth's arm. "Be happy, darling." That's what she wanted. To me a nod. Take care of her heart. Relief flooded, but the high was ephemeral. That afternoon, as we celebrated with impromptu tapas in the courtyard, patatas bravas and laughter, Elizabeth pulled me aside, face shadowed. "Sophia called while you were sketching. Wants to talk. Says she gets it now, but..." Part of me wonders. Her confession was a gut punch, betrayal's echo. "Not love," she clarified. "But what if? The easy path." I stepped back, the Sirocco wind whipping my hair. "After everything? You choose now to waver." Hurt sharpened my tone, drama unfolding like a telenovela twist. We argued under the olive boughs, voices carrying to Carlos, who watched from afar, pained but silent. She left for Madrid that evening, just to end it clean, promising return by dawn. Sleepless, I paced the pool's edge, moon-mocking my vigil. Carlos joined me, offering brandy from a hip flask. Trust's a gamble, Ella. But you've stacked the odds. Dawn broke without her, texts cryptic. Delayed. Thinking. Panic set in visions of Soho galleries, Sophia's arm. I drove to Madrid, the highway a blur of cork oaks and billboards, heart in my throat. Her apartment door yielded to my frantic knock, but inside, chaos. Boxes repacked, Elizabeth on the floor amid shards. A dropped mug, clay fragments from her wheel. I told her, she sobbed, rising into my arms. It's you. Always. But she said I'd regret it. That your flighty American whims. I held her, rocking, our tears mingling. Flighty? I've rooted here for you. We made love to promises that night. No, not that. We held each other, bodies entwined in quiet affirmation, whispers weaving futures. Dawn found us tangled in sheets, resolved. Back in Seville, the villa buzzed with new life. Carlos greenlit the art retreat. My illustrations for brochures, Elizabeth's ceramics as centerpieces. Guests trickled, writers from Barcelona, painters from Lisbon, filling rooms with chatter, easing financial strains. Clara even sent a check, anonymous but telling. Yet drama simmered. One stormy eve, as thunder rolled over the Sierra Morena, Elizabeth confessed deeper scars. Maria's death not accident, but illness hidden, cancer swift and silent. Clara shielded me, but it broke us all differently. Vulnerability bonded us tighter, but foreshadowed the ultimate test. It came unbidden. A diagnosis, hers, early, treatable but thunderclap. In the oncologist's sterile office in Seville, words blurred, hormonal. Caught soon. She gripped my hand, Carlos's too, our triad unbreakable. We'll fight, I vowed, fear metallic on my tongue. Betrayal's shadow? None now, only loyalties forge. Highs and lows wove. Chemo days in the villa's sunroom, her sketching weak but defiant. My Boston family wiring support, surprising warmth. Carlos cooked healing broths. Clara flew in, her armor shed for bedside vigils. Through it our love deepened, romantic in stolen glances, human in the grit. Elizabeth emerged, scarred but shining, hair growing back in soft curls. The retreat thrived, a testament, Duende Haven, named for Lorca's spirit. But climax brewed beyond health. A rival developer eyed the groves, Clara's old firm backing the buyout. Greed versus heart, our stand loomed, storm gathering. The developer's shadow fell heavy, like the long dusk over Andalusia's plains. It started with surveys, men in hard hats staking the olive groves, their machines idling like beasts at the gate. The proposal landed via courier, a glossy folder promising luxury eco-resort, tripling the villa's worth but erasing its soul. Backed by Clara's firm, irony's bitter twist, they cited market forces. But we knew, profit over legacy. Carlos slammed the folder shut in the kitchen, veins bulging like twisted roots. Over my body, he growled, but weariness etched deeper. His architect's eye seeing the blueprints gleam. Elizabeth, still pale from treatments, her hazel eyes fierce, rallied us. This is Maria's land. Our fight. She mapped defenses on the dining table. Petitions to local council, crowdfunding for preservation, media spots on cultural heritage. I dove in, my illustrations weaponized, posters of the villa as timeless haven, shared across expat forums and Instagram, hashtags pulsing, saved Duende Haven. Guests became allies, testimonials flooding. This place healed me. Clara, conflicted, leaked insider docs, emails exposing the firm's corner cutting. Redeeming myself, she wired, a truce sealed in pixels. But conflict crested vicious. The lead developer, a slick Madrileno named Vargas, arrived uninvited one broiling afternoon, entourage in tow. He toured the grounds like conqueror, clipboard in hand, dismissing our pleas with oily charm. Progress, senoritas. Your little pottery shop won't survive climate shifts. To Elizabeth. Heard about your health scare. Sell now, secure your future. Rage ignited her. My future's here. Digging in this dirt with people I love. She shoved a clay vessel into his hands, Maria's design fired in our kiln, watching it shatter on the flagstones. That's what your progress does. Vargas stormed off, threats veiled. Council votes next week. Good luck. Nights blurred into strategy sessions, tension fraying us. Elizabeth and I clashed. Her pushing aggressive protests, me urging diplomacy. You're like Clara, she accused once, voice raw. Calculating. It stung, echoing old wounds, but we mended in the library, Lorca's words a salve. To burn with desire and keep quiet about it is the greatest punishment. High tide hit at the council hearing in Seville's Ayuntamiento, a cavernous hall of marble and gilt, air thick with cigar smoke and agendas. We presented united. Carlos's measured testimony on sustainable yields, Elizabeth's impassioned plea. This isn't land, it's memory woven. My visuals projecting the villa's heart. Supporters packed the benches, locals, artists, even Vargas's disgruntled ex-partner spilling dirt on bribes. Clara testified last, flown in, her voice steady. As family I aired, valuing ledgers over lives. Withdraw support. The firm folded, proposal crumbling like dry earth. Cheers erupted, our embrace amid chaos, triumph's salty kiss. Yet drama's denouement whispered by tragic. Months on, as groves greened and retreats boomed, Carlos faltered. A heart murmur, doctor's orders to slow. Time to pass the torch, he said over farewell dinner, eyes misty. Elizabeth and I bought him out gently, our savings pooled, dreams manifest. Studio expansions, a garden for Maria. He moved to a cottage in Ronda, closer to old friends, visits frequent. His flask of brandy a constant. You too, he'd toast. You're the real estate. But loss loomed. Scans showed his murmur worsening, a shadow creeping. The climax came softly one autumn dawn. A call from Ronda Hospital. We raced the winding roads, Elizabeth's hand in mine, wind whipping through open windows. He waited in a sunlit room, frail but beaming. Knew you'd come. Stories flowed, Maria's dances, our battles, laughter punctuating coughs. Proud, he whispered, gripping our hands. Love. Unexpected but true. He slipped away at dusk, the Sierra's peaks gilded, leaving a will. The groves to us, letters for Elizabeth. Dance your duende mija. Grief hollowed us, funeral a tapestry of flamenco and tears. Clara at our side, arm linked. In the aftermath, human warmth bloomed. We transformed the villa fully. Duende Haven a sanctuary for queer artists, scholarships in Carlos's name. Elizabeth's pots held his ashes in the garden. My sketches immortalized his crinkled smile. Our love? Deepened in sorrow's forge, romantic walks by the pool. Where it began, hands laced against stars. No perfection but endurance. Arguments yielding to apologies, dreams shared in whispers. One eve, under rain's gentle lash in the courtyard. That scene etched in memory, we vowed anew. Unexpected, she murmured. But ours. Spain's sun set on us, not in blaze but steady glow, human, flawed, enduring. Roots planted, we bloomed.